The galaxy was wide, full of colors and voices from many worlds. But still, everyone watched Earth's biggest show, the stage of the stars. It was more than just a program. It was a symbol of fame, power, and sometimes mockery, the fee. Host of the show was Daxon Kaur, a tall man with shiny teeth and a louder voice. His clothes changed color with his mood, always glowing, always dramatic. He had interviewed singers from the cloud cities of Zentria, dancers from the twin moon tribe of Arxen, and poets who used light instead of words. But still, Daxon believed that humans were the most boring of all. They try, he often said, but they're just soft. This episode was special. It was the Galactic Surprise Night, where someone from the audience would be randomly selected to come on stage and perform anything. People loved this segment because sometimes it was beautiful, but mostly it was awkward. And Daxon loved that. The studio was full. Aliens from all corners of the galaxy had come to watch. Some floated, some glowed, some hummed. And in one quiet corner sat a human woman, wearing a plain brown robe. She had soft eyes, small hands, and a calm face. Her name was Mina. She had never visited Earth before. She lived on a small farming station on Mars, where she grew herbs and flowers for medicine. She didn't come for the show. She had followed her old friend Tareen, who worked as a janitor in the broadcasting tower. He gave her a free pass just to see the colors and lights. Mina didn't even know she had been registered in the lottery pool for the surprise act. The big screen lit up. Sparks flew across the ceiling. Daxon's voice boomed. And now, it's time for our galactic surprise performer. Let the system choose. The lights dimmed. The names on screen spun like a wheel of fire. Then the lights stopped. The screen turned blue. A single name appeared. Emiane. The camera zoomed in on her, sitting quietly in the fourth row. At first, she didn't move. Everyone turned their heads. She looked around confused. A spotlight beamed down on her. Tareen whispered, "That's you. Go. It picked you." She stood slowly, unsure. The camera followed her every step as she walked down the aisle toward the bright and shining stage. Daxon smiled, the kind of smile that wasn't friendly. "Well, what do we have here?" he said. "A simple human girl. From Mars, is it?" Mina nodded politely. "Tell us, dear Mina, do you dance? Fight? Perform magic? Or will you juggle vegetables from your farm?" His voice was loud, and some in the audience laughed. Mina looked at the ground. Then she softly replied, "I can sing, a little." "Oh," Daxon said dramatically. "A singer. And from the Martian mud fields, no less. This should be fascinating." The crowd laughed again. Aliens whispered to each other. Some prepared their translation devices. Others turned off their attention, expecting something dull. Daxon waved toward the stage band. "No music," he said. "Let's see her raw talent, if there is any." Mina stood quietly under the lights. The world around her was loud. Blinking lights, buzzing drones, cold air. Her heart was beating fast. Her hands were shaking. She could see herself on the giant screen above, looking small and lost. But then she remembered the garden on Mars. She remembered the quiet mornings, the singing winds that passed over red hills, the way flowers opened when she sang softly to them. She remembered the sound of her mother's voice. So she closed her eyes and she began to sing. The first note was soft, like a breeze in the night. It floated through the air and touched the ears of every creature in the room. The second note was stronger, a clear sound, like light through water. Her voice was simple, yes, but it carried something strange. Something old. The crowd grew quiet. Even Daxon stopped smiling. Her song had no words, just sounds. But the sounds spoke feelings of hope, of sorrow, of stars long gone and flowers blooming in silence. It was a song not for the mind, but for the heart. One alien with glowing eyes began to tear up. A robot in the third row tilted its head, recording every wave of her voice. Two insect-like beings folded their wings and hummed along, matching her tones. Across the galaxy, in distant systems, people were watching. They had no idea who Mina was. But when she sang, they paused. Some ships stopped mid-travel. Some children dropped their toys. Even animals turned toward their screens. It was like her voice reached into the soul of everything alive. When the song ended, the studio was completely silent. Mina opened her eyes. She was not smiling. She simply looked down, gave a small bow, and stepped back. Daxon didn't speak. For once, the king of noise had no words. 1 second passed, then another. And then the crowd stood. Alien, human, machine, all clapping. Some were cheering, some were crying. It wasn't loud, but it was real. It was respect. Mina looked surprised. She slowly walked off stage, returning to her seat beside Tareen. Daxon finally spoke, but his voice was lower now. Well, that was unexpected. He tried to laugh, but no one laughed with him. Backstage, producers were already reviewing the footage. Scientists were calling in. Experts were replaying her voice in slow motion. Something had changed. Something had awakened. And it had started with a simple woman and a simple song. Daxon Kaur sat alone in his private room behind the stage. The walls were filled with gold panels and moving images from past shows. Usually, after a performance, he would watch replays of himself, smiling and waving, enjoying the praise from the audience. But tonight, the screen showed something else. It showed Mina. Her eyes were closed, her voice still echoing softly in the room. Daxon frowned. He replayed the scene again. Her voice was simple, no training, no big notes, no dancing. Lights. And yet, it had done something strange. The crowd had not just clapped. They had stood. Even the floating crystals from Voron 5 had dropped to the floor in silence when she sang. And those creatures didn't react to anything. What just happened? He asked himself. Outside, the audience was buzzing. People weren't talking about the aliens anymore. They weren't laughing about bad performances. Everyone was talking about the simple girl from Mars. Meanwhile, Mina sat quietly backstage. A producer had rushed over to her the moment she stepped off the stage. "Do you have more songs?" the woman asked. "I don't know," Mina replied. "I only sing when I feel something." Another man came with a tablet. "We need your signature. You're trending across 12 systems. 1 million views in 5 minutes. Mina didn't understand. What does that mean? Taran stood beside her, still wearing his janitor uniform. He placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "It means they liked you a lot." Mina looked confused. She had not come to be famous. She had not even come to perform. She just followed the sound in her heart. "Can I go home now?" she asked. The producers looked shocked. "Home? But we can get you interviews, contracts, sponsorships." "I need to check on my garden," she said simply, "and feed the soil." They looked at each other, not knowing what to say. On the next day, every major news screen showed Mina's face. Human voice stops a room of aliens. Simple Martian farmer melts hearts. The girl who made Daxon silent, clips of her performance were played everywhere on ships, stations, and alien marketplaces. Even robotic planets where emotions were rare began to broadcast the song to test its effects. In a science lab orbiting Neptune, an alien researcher named Zelen analyzed her voice. He zoomed in on the sound waves and frowned. "These waves are not just music," he said to his assistant. "They are carrying something more, something organic." "Emotion?" asked the assistant. "No, deeper, something ancient, something only humans have." He paused. "Soul." Back on Earth, the next episode of The Stage of the Stars was announced. It would be a special follow-up with Mina invited again. The network hoped to use the moment for even bigger ratings. Daxon wasn't happy. He didn't like losing control. For years, he was the one who made the audience laugh, cheer, or cry. Now one quiet girl had stolen all the attention with just her voice. And she didn't even try. She's just lucky, Daxon told himself. But deep down, he felt something else, jealousy. The day of the new episode arrived. The stage was brighter than ever. Alien flowers floated above the crowd, and drones captured every moment. Everyone waited for Mina to return. Reporters tried to get interviews, but she had said no to all of them. She had returned to her farm, far away from cameras and screens. She did agree to come back, for one more song. Behind the curtains, Daxon took a deep breath. He looked at his reflection in the mirror. "This is my show," he told himself. "I control the story." When Mina stepped onto the stage again, the crowd erupted in cheers. She was dressed the same. Plain robe, soft eyes, gentle smile. No makeup, no bodyguards. Just Mina. Daxon welcomed her with a forced smile. "Our star returns," he said. "Back from the dusty farms of Mars." She nodded kindly. "Thank you." "I must say," he continued, "I didn't expect so much from such a simple voice. But let's be honest. One song is luck. Can you do it again?" Mina looked at him calmly. "I don't sing to prove anything. I sing because something inside wants to speak." Daxon laughed. "Very poetic. But this is television, not a garden. We need results." The crowd didn't laugh this time. He turned to them and waved his hand. "Let's see if lightning strikes twice." He stepped back. The lights dimmed. The music team waited for her signal, but again, Mina asked for no instruments. Just silence. And again, she closed her eyes and began to sing. This time her voice was deeper, slower, more sorrowful. It told a story without words, of time passing, of forgotten songs, of lonely stars watching life from far away. Her voice shook the air, not with power, but with honesty. Even the machines in the studio began to hum in harmony. The floating flowers stopped moving. One alien in the front row dropped to its knees. Daxon watched from the side. His heart beat faster. He didn't understand what he was feeling: regret, fear, wonder. And when Mina's song ended, no one clapped right away. There was silence, not from confusion, but from respect. From stillness. Then slowly, one by one, people stood. Some bowed their heads. Others placed hands on their hearts. It was not a performance anymore. It was something more. After the show, Daxon sat alone again. He looked into the mirror and saw a man who used to be the center of the galaxy. Now, he felt small. Someone knocked on the door. It was Mina. "I wanted to say thank you," she said softly, "for giving me the stage." He nodded slowly. "I gave you the stage, but you gave them something much more." She smiled gently. "Maybe now we'll remember what it means to listen." And with that, she left, not for fame, not for fortune, but for home. Back to her quiet garden, where real songs are born. The universe is full of sounds: ships humming, stars burning, machines beeping, languages clashing. But after Mina's second song on the stage of the stars, something happened that was not normal. Silence. Not just in the studio, not just on Earth, but across faraway corners of space. For the first time in many years, thousands of people, aliens, and even machines stopped what they were doing, just to listen. And even after her song ended, the silence stayed a little longer, as if the universe itself didn't want to speak, afraid to disturb the memory of her voice. On a giant space station orbiting Saturn, a council of alien scholars watched the replay. One of them, an old creature with skin like glass and eyes like blue fire, leaned forward. "She sings in the old patterns," he whispered. "What do you mean?" asked a younger alien beside him. The elder replied, "Long before we had language, we had tone. Before war and machines, we had harmony. What the girl sings is not just a human voice. It is the memory of life. In a laboratory on Titan, robotic scientists studied the frequency of Mina's voice. She uses vibrations not found in common music, said one of them. Her notes carry signals between brain and heart. Another robot added, some notes match the same waves found in healing technology and dream simulations. Even without knowing how, her song was affecting minds and emotions. People were reporting calmness. Sadness was less. Nightmares were fading. Across several planets, Mina's second song was downloaded more than any other song in galactic history. No instruments, no lyrics. Just one voice, pure and human. Back on Mars, Mina returned to her small farming station. She was tired, not from travel, but from attention. People sent her gifts. Ships flew above her house. Reporters begged for interviews. News drones floated outside her garden. But Mina stayed inside. She watered her plants. She sang softly to the herbs. She let the sun kiss her hands, just like before. Tarin came to visit. He brought simple bread and fruit from a nearby colony. You've become a symbol, he said. People are calling you the voice of peace. Mina laughed a little. I never wanted that. I only wanted to sing. Maybe, Tarin said. But your voice reminds people of something they forgot. She looked up at the Martian sky, quiet and red. If that's true, she said softly, then I'm glad. Meanwhile, on Earth, Daxon Kor was no longer the center of the news. For years he had ruled the screen. His name meant fame, power, and drama. But now, every headline spoke of Mina. Every screen showed her face. Every broadcast repeated her song. Daxon tried to reclaim attention. He brought in alien dancers, flamethrowers, and lightning acrobats. But nothing worked. People didn't want noise anymore. They wanted meaning. His ratings dropped. His sponsors pulled back. One day, during a live show, Daxon stood silently after an act, remembering how the crowd had once stood for Mina. He finally said to himself, she didn't try to be great. She just was. In a floating temple above the planet Alara 9, monks who studied sound history gathered. One monk played Mina's song on a crystal instrument. Another repeated it with light waves. A third wrote the pattern in golden ink. It is the soul harmonic, said the elder monk. Is that real? Asked a student. It was a legend, the elder replied. It was said that one day, a voice would rise from a forgotten world. That voice would carry the same energy that once awakened dying stars and healed broken worlds. Do you think it's her? I don't think, the elder said. I feel, and my feeling says yes. News spread to distant corners of the galaxy. Civilizations that once ignored Earth were now sending messages. We request her presence at the peace table. Our children sleep better to her voice. Can she visit our world? Our machines recognize her tone as ancient code. We must speak with her. Humanity, once called simple, emotional, and weak, was now seen as special, not because of power, not because of science, but because of something invisible, the soul. Back in her small home, Mina sat near a window, holding a cup of warm leaf tea. She looked outside as red. Dust floated through the air. She didn't want to become a leader. She didn't want to wear shiny clothes or speak to big crowds. But she understood. Now her voice was no longer just hers. It belonged to many. There was a soft knock at her door. A messenger stood outside, holding a box. For you, Miss Mina, from the Galactic Council. She opened the box. Inside was a simple note. You are invited to sing at the Unity Summit. The first human voice to be honored at the Gathering of Worlds. Her hands trembled. The Unity Summit happened only once every 1,000 years. Leaders, thinkers, and artists from all known civilizations met to share peace, wisdom, and truth. And they wanted her to sing. That night, Mina walked outside. She stood in her garden and looked up at the stars. They seemed closer now, brighter dots she didn't know what would come next, but she knew one thing, her voice had become a. The stars above Mars shined brighter than usual. Mina stood outside her small home, holding the invitation to the Unity Summit, a gathering so rare. It happened only once every 1,000 years. The Unity Summit was not just a meeting. It was a dream, held on Zereth Prime, a peaceful world in the center of known space. It welcomed leaders, artists, thinkers, and creators from all major civilizations. No weapons, no war, only understanding. Mina, a simple woman from a quiet farm, had been asked to sing there. News spread fast. Mina to perform at the Unity Summit. First human artist to be honored by the Galactic Council. Ships hovered over her land, and screens appeared outside her garden fence. But Mina didn't speak to the reporters. She spent her days quietly trimming her plants, humming soft tunes, and preparing for something she didn't fully understand. Taring stayed by her side. He didn't ask questions. He brought food, helped with the farm, and listened when Mina spoke. "Do you think I can do this?" she asked one morning as she planted a new row of silver leaf herbs. Turin nodded. "You already have." A few days later, a smooth white ship landed outside her home. It had no engines, no noise, only a soft hum like a sleeping bird. A group of peaceful beings stepped out, tall, graceful, their skin glowing with soft colors. "We are from the council," said one, a being named Velis. "We have come to guide you to Zereth Prime." Mina didn't carry luggage. She wore her usual robe and carried a small pouch of Martian soil. Before stepping onto the ship, she looked back at her garden. "I'll return soon," she whispered to the plants. The journey through space was quiet. No loud engines, no flashing lights. Only the soft glow of stars passing by, inside the ship. Velis explained, "Your song is more than sound, it is a key. You have unlocked memories hidden in ancient systems. Even machines have begun to dream." Mina was surprised. "But I only sing what I feel." "That," Velis replied, "is the rarest kind of music." When they arrived at Zereth Prime, Mina saw a planet like no other. Floating mountains, rivers that changed colors with emotion, trees that whispered when you walked near. It was a world made by peace, for peace. The Unity Summit was held inside a crystal dome, shaped like a giant star, with rooms that reflected the skies of every planet represented. More than 700 species were present. Some were tall as towers, others small as teacups. Some floated, some swam. Some shimmered like air. But all eyes turned when Mina entered. She's the one, the voice of the soul. She sings the forgotten song. Mina didn't speak. She smiled softly and bowed her head. Before the performance, she was taken to a quiet garden inside the dome. It held plants from across the galaxy, flowers from icy moons, vines from fire worlds. A single tree from Earth stood in the center. She sat under it and closed her eyes. The air was filled with peace. But deep inside, Mina was nervous. "What if I sing and nothing happens?" she thought. "What if they all expect magic, but I'm just—" Suddenly, she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. It was Ilar, a blind alien poet with silver skin, known across galaxies. "I felt your voice before I heard it," he said. "It reminded me that I am alive." Mina looked at him, surprised. "But I don't understand why it matters." Ilar smiled. "That is why it matters. You do not sing to be known. You sing because your heart can't stay silent." His words gave her courage. The time came. The grand hall of the Unity Summit was filled. Thousands sat in quiet expectation. Number. Drums, no lights. Just stillness. Mina walked to the center of the hall. No microphone. No music. Just her. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and began to sing. This song was different. It was a song of beginnings. Of small seeds growing into trees. of cold planets warming slowly, of friendships forming between different beings. It was a song of hope. As her voice flowed, strange things began to happen. An ancient machine near the back suddenly powered on and began to record. A group of warring ambassadors, sitting far apart, looked at each other for the first time. A child from a desert world cried softly and reached out toward the sound. Even the walls of the crystal dome began to glow with soft colors. Matching her voice, the song ended not with a high note, but with a whisper, and for one long moment, the galaxy held its breath. Then a sound rose, not applause, not shouting, but humming. One by one, the delegates, leaders, and artists began to hum together, repeating her final note. Every species, every language, one shared sound. Peace had found its voice. After the performance, Mina stepped down. She didn't bow. She didn't wave. She simply walked back to the garden. There, under the earth tree, she sat in silence. Ilar joined her again. "You have changed many things today," he said. "I didn't mean to," she replied. "That," he said, "is what makes it real." Back on Earth and Mars and other planets, people watched and felt something shift. Fewer arguments, more quiet moments. Children began singing Mina's melody at school. Even machines began saving her notes as comfort tones. Humanity, once laughed at for being emotional and weak, was now respected for holding something precious, a soul that could be heard. The lights of Earth's biggest studio no longer felt bright to Daxon Core. Once, he stood proudly under those glowing beams. He controlled every show, every laugh, every cheer. But now, the light seemed colder. He sat in his dressing room, staring at the large mirror in front of him. The reflection looked the same: shiny suit, perfect hair, confident smile, but something inside him had changed. His show was still running, but people were no longer excited. Viewers watched replays of Mina's performance at the Unity Summit. Instead, even sponsors now whispered, "Can you invite her again?" Daxon scoffed. "She sings a few quiet notes, and now I'm forgotten?" But deep inside, he wasn't angry at Mina. He was confused. He watched her song again, for the 10th time. No fancy outfit. No background music, just her voice. Her eyes were closed. Her hands were still, and yet, it reached something inside him. He remembered being a boy standing in a quiet field, listening to his mother hum while she worked in the garden. It was the last time he felt real peace. Now he was surrounded by fame, wealth, and noise, but none of it felt real anymore. Daxon tried to bring his show back to life. He invited stars from 10 different planets. He added fireworks, laser dancers, and robot comedians. He even hired a wind singer from planet Arrows who could move air with her voice. But the audience wasn't smiling. They watched politely, then left early. One viewer wrote on the show's page, "It's loud, but it feels empty." Another comment said, "Mina sang once and gave me peace. Daxon brings noise and nothing more." That last comment stayed in Daxon's mind. His manager, Reel, came in during rehearsal. "We need to change the show's format," Reel said. "Something new, something meaningful." Daxon raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" Reel hesitated. Like what Mina did." Daxon stood up. "I can't be her. I don't sing soft. I don't whisper about flowers and soil. That's not who I am." Reel nodded slowly. "Maybe, but people don't want jokes anymore. They want truth." Daxon fell silent. He had spent years building his name with fun and mockery. He knew how to make people laugh. He knew how to make them cheer. But now, people wanted something deeper, something he wasn't sure he had. Later that night, Daxon walked through the city. He wore a hood to stay hidden. The roads were filled with giant screens, but all were showing Mina's summit song. Her voice echoed from shops, taxis, and even playgrounds. He entered a small cafe. No one recognized him. A little girl was sitting by the window, humming Mina's final note softly. Her eyes were closed. She looked peaceful. "Why do you like that song?" Daxon asked, sitting nearby. The girl smiled. "It makes me feel safe, even though it's slow and quiet." She nodded. "It feels like someone understands me." Daxon didn't reply. He just nodded and left the cafe with a heavy heart. Back at the studio, he stood alone on the dark stage. The chairs were empty. The lights were off. He whispered, "Is that what I've been missing? Understanding?" Suddenly, he saw a shadow move near the back seats. It was Mina. She had come quietly, wearing her simple robe, without any cameras or guards. Daxon was shocked. "Why are you here?" Mina walked slowly toward him. "I heard your show was in trouble." He looked down. "You came to see me fail?" "No," she said softly. "I came because I remember what it feels like to be laughed at." Daxon felt ashamed. "I mocked you. I wanted to make you look foolish." Mina smiled gently. "Yes, but you also gave me the stage." He sat on the edge of the platform, silent. Mina joined him. He asked, "How do you sing like that, without fear?" "I do feel fear," she said, "but I let it pass through me. I don't sing to impress. I sing to connect." Daxon looked at her. "I don't know how to do that." Mina placed her hand on the stage floor. "Then maybe you just need to listen. Not with your ears, with your heart." The next day, something surprising happened. Daxon opened his next show with no audience. No band and no guests. He sat alone in a chair under soft lights. He looked at the camera. "Tonight, there is no performance," he said. "There's no act. I just want to speak honestly for the first time." He talked about how he built his career on laughter, on control, on making fun of weakness. He admitted that deep down, he was afraid to show his real self. Afraid people would turn away. "But then I heard Mina sing," he said, "and I remembered a piece of myself I had buried." He paused. "I don't know if I can be like her, but I want to try." That episode spread like wildfire. Not because it was flashy, but because it was true. People across planets saw a new side of Daxon, a man not full of pride, but full of questions. Viewers wrote comments like, "He finally spoke like a real person. We need more truth, less perfection." For the first time, Daxon didn't feel like a host. He felt like a human. After that, Mina sent him a message. The stage is not just for stars. Sometimes it's for people who are still learning how to shine. Daxon smiled at the words. He printed them and placed them inside the mirror of his dressing room. And this time, when he looked at his reflection, he didn't just see a performer. He saw a person who had begun to change. After the Unity Summit, everything began to change, not just on Earth or Mars, but across the galaxy. Mina's voice had reached deeper than anyone expected. It was no longer just a performance. Her song had become a signal of peace, a healing sound, and a memory of something lost. Ships from distant systems downloaded her voice to calm pilots before long travels. Hospitals used her song during recovery sessions. Even warriors on planets locked in war zones paused when her melody played through the air. In places where governments failed, her voice was played through speakers in public. Riots slowed. People sat quietly. For the first time in years, silence was welcomed. On Zerith Prime, the leaders of 52 star systems met once again. They had just experienced something no treaty had ever achieved: stillness, not by force, but through song. The representative from planet Nuvia stood up and spoke. "We have traded weapons, gold, and promises for centuries. But today, one human voice did what thousands of agreements could not." Another alien from the mist world of Drola added, "It was not her words, but the emotion behind them. That is what our people remember." And so, the council voted. Unanimously. A new message would be broadcast every galactic cycle, a song of unity, sung by a human named Mina. Meanwhile, Mina had returned to Mars. Despite being a symbol of peace, She still woke up early to water her plants, trim herbs, and collect soil for her greenhouse. She refused bodyguards. She declined interviews. When people asked her for big speeches, she simply said, "I am just a gardener who sings." One afternoon, while she was picking flower leaves, a small shadow appeared over her. A tiny ship landed. Quietly, and a door opened. A girl stepped out, not human, but from a distant ice planet. She had glowing eyes and silver skin. She walked up to Mina, holding a small recorder. "I've come to listen," the girl said. Mina smiled. Then, "Sit, the wind sings today." They sat together. Mina didn't sing for an audience. She hummed while she worked, and the little girl smiled. That was enough. Back on Earth, Daxon Core had changed his show completely. He renamed it The Space Between. Instead of comedy acts or competitions, the show now shared real stories. People from different planets came and told their journeys. How they overcame fear, how they found peace, how Mina's song reminded them of something deep inside. In one episode, a mechanical being from planet Grohl said, "I have no heart, no tears." But when I heard her voice, something inside me paused. People around the galaxy began using the word Mina as a symbol. "Let's find our Mina" meant let's find peace. "Sing it with Mina" meant be honest. Even children playing used the phrase, "Don't break the Mina," when asking others to play kindly. In a deep space station where dying stars were studied, scientists ran tests using her song. One researcher noted, "When we play her voice near a fading star, its energy patterns change. It's like the star is listening." Another test showed something even more strange. An ancient communication tower, which had been silent for 600 years, lit up when Mina's voice passed through it. The symbols that appeared on its screen were decoded as "Signal recognized," "Soul confirmed," "Begin awakening." Galactic scholars began to study her frequency. They found that her voice matched patterns from ancient carvings found in planets no longer alive. These patterns were older than any known civilization. A scholar from the floating universities of Arkan said, "It is possible that long before machines and cities, before even time as we know it, there existed a language of the soul." Mina has touched that language. But with light also came shadows. Some powerful groups felt afraid. On planet Threx, a council of warlords warned, "A voice that can stop armies is more dangerous than any weapon." They feared that if people followed peace too far, their control would fade. They banned Mina's music on their networks. But even there, underground stations shared her song quietly. One Threxian soldier said, "I grew up with orders, commands, and fear. But when I heard her, I remembered my mother. I remembered kindness." Slowly, even in the darkest places, her voice was reaching hearts. Mina began receiving messages from unknown corners of space. "My family hasn't spoken in years. After we heard your song, we talked all night. I never believed in peace. Now I plant trees. Thank you for reminding me that I am alive." She read each one slowly, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying. But Mina never changed her life. She kept living simply, growing her herbs, feeding the soil, and singing softly as the Martian sun set. When someone asked her why she didn't move to a bigger house or a better city, she replied, "If I leave the earth that taught me to sing, I might forget how to listen." One day, she received a call. It was from Velas, the council's guide who once brought her to the Unity Summit. He said, "There's one more place that needs your voice." "Where?" she asked. "A planet no longer living, a place of silence. We believe your song may awaken something there." Mina thought for a moment, then said quietly, "I will come." Not to wake planets, but to honor what was once alive. As her ship prepared to leave, people from all around Mars gathered to say goodbye. No big speeches, just soft humming. The same note from her first song. As the ship lifted into the sky, The red dust danced beneath it, and the wind carried her voice far across the fields. And once again, the galaxy prepared. The ship moved silently through the deep darkness of space. Mina sat by the small window, watching stars drift slowly past. The planet she was heading to was called Vezra, a world once full of life, now silent for centuries. Vezra's cities were empty, its oceans had dried, its forests were dust. It was a place forgotten by most, but not by Mina. She had been asked to sing there, not to entertain, but to remember. To honor. When the ship landed, the air was still. No birds sang, no wind blew. Mina stepped out in her simple robe. Carrying a small pouch of soil from Mars. She walked through the ruins. Broken buildings, empty streets, silent places where laughter once lived. At the center was an old square, cracked and worn. Mina stood there, closed her eyes, and began to sing. Her voice was soft, gentle, and full of memory. It was a song for the lost, for the forgotten, for the worlds that once dreamed. Her notes floated through the empty streets, touching broken stones, stirring the dust, waking memories. Far away, in the council on Zereth Prime, leaders watched through a live feed. Some wept quietly, some held hands. Many remembered their own lost homes. A message came from a child on a nearby planet. Her song feels like the first rain after a long drought. Back on Vezra, something strange began to happen. Tiny green sprouts pushed through cracks in the stone. A soft breeze began to blow. Far above, a bird called out, the first in many years. Mina's voice continued, steady and clear. Life was not returning quickly, but a seed had been planted. After her song, Mina sat quietly and looked around. She felt tired but peaceful. A small group of local survivors came forward. They had hidden on Vezra, waiting for hope. They thanked Mina. "You have given us something we lost," one said. "Faith." Mina smiled and said, "It was always inside you." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Daxon Kaur watched the broadcast of Mina's song on Vezra. His heart was full. He understood now that the true power of a voice was not to control, but to connect. He had changed his show. He had changed himself. He sent a message to Mina. "Thank you for showing me the way to listen." Mina's journey didn't end on Vezra. She continued to travel to places in the galaxy that needed healing, places of pain, fear, and silence. Her voice became a symbol of hope and unity. People from all worlds began to sing together, sharing their stories and songs. One evening, Mina returned to Mars. Her garden had grown wild and beautiful. She sat under the earth tree in her little greenhouse and sang softly to the stars. A small voice whispered in the wind, "A simple star shines brightest of all."